Welcome to Huddle Up,
Brought to you by the Fields Auto Group.
Jaguars senior writer John Oehser, NFL Network analyst and former Jaguar Bucky Brooks, and senior reporter J.P. Shadrick bring you the latest on your Jacksonville Jaguars. Huddle Up starts right now.
And welcome in. It's Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks, brought to you by Fields Auto Group Jacksonville. See Fields first, Jacksonville's premier luxury auto group. Go to fieldsauto.com. JP Shadrick, John Oehser. I guess this is Huddle Up without Bucky Brooks.
Right, the quicksand is gone. We can run free.
That's what we were born to do.
That's right. We were born to run. Tramps like us.
That's
right.
very much true. Plenty to get to today. A new mock draft out by national media maven, NFL media analyst Daniel Jeremiah. We'll get to who he has the Jaguars taking at number 5 coming up. The rules change proposals were announced earlier on Wednesday. We'll go through those. And I have a feeling that we're not in agreement on some of the proposals. We'll go through them. We'll see.
That's fine.
I don't know. Hey, they didn't ask me. Anyway.
You have the right to be wrong.
I'm entitled,
as Pete would say,
entitled my own
right.
wrong opinion.
Right.
Yeah. And then, the Jaguars reportedly signing another offensive lineman.
Yeah.
All that's coming up.
Can't have enough
as well. Okay, so it's a strange week, really. It's the start of free agency's done. The players a golf tournament this week in the rear view. The quarterback was out there. The coaches were out there on Saturday. Now it's spring break in a lot of areas, so people are coming and going, vacation. The veterans aren't in yet. That starts April 7th. But this is kind of no man's land.
Yeah, it's a transition week, and it probably feels a little bit different to Jaguars fans, a little bit different to us, because this year in free agency, usually teams, and the Jaguars have done it in the past, sign a couple of guys, and then there's a little bit of a second wave, a third tier. The Jaguars really did their tiers all on the first day. They targeted guys. Some of the guys that they signed contracts that would usually put them in a second or third tier range, which usually would have lingered into this week to make it feel more active. But they targeted guys they knew that they wanted, didn't wait for sort of the market to shake out on some of the swing tackle or a tight end or backup quarterback. So they knew what they wanted, and frankly, there's not a whole lot left for them to do with what they had budgeted. So there's a little bit more, but now the free agents get down to where they're much more minimum price, much more of a manageable schedule type situation. So yeah, it's a week of transition, and kick your feet up. That's not unusual for you.
Or you either,
right.
by the way. I mean, don't point at me. We both know how to relax around here, okay? To that end, I mean, the Jaguars apparently reportedly earlier on Wednesday are signing another tackle, Fred Johnson from the Eagles. He's out of Florida, 3 years with the Bengals, part of a season with the Bucs in 2022, signed with the Eagles in 2023. He was a relief starter last year during the Super Bowl run for Philadelphia. So that makes 4 linemen on the offensive side added in free agency. It's a big reset of the room overall. Yeah, there are some returning starters and things that you're going to see in the lineup, but a lot of new faces in there.
Yeah, well, at line, you need 8 or 9 guys, and even remember they did not bring back Blake Hance.
Yes.
Blake Hance was a guy that that level of lineman that you need that you don't think about a whole lot until all of a sudden you need it, right? So you get down to your 8th, 9th guy. That's what it seems like they're trying to get to before the draft, where they have 8, 9, 10 guys who have experience, who if they have to turn to them, they know the offense, they know what they're about. So they're getting those numbers up of veteran players. You don't want to have 5 offensive line starters and then 5 rookies behind them. So it feels like with, I'm going to botch his name, Aboga from last week.
Yeah, Adoga.
Yeah. That they are trying to make sure they have veterans to turn to manage the roster during the season and guys they're familiar with.
Makes sense to me. I mean, it's a priority. You want to be, make a change up front. You got to make a change up front. And this is the beginning of that change-up.
And
it could be, who knows? It could be more in the draft, too.
When regimes change, they also switch out those guys often that you sort of rely on in a pinch. And Blake Hance was that guy here. I trust that Blake will go be that guy somewhere else. Tyler Shatley last year had been sort of that guy that you relied on. A little step up from Blake Hance, but you need linemen like that, maybe above any position, because they're hard to find. With receivers or with maybe even a corner, if you hit a rough patch during the season, it's maybe a little easier to go out on the street during the season, find somebody off another team's practice squad. Teams like having a group of linemen that you can sort of pick from who are available in a pinch. So it seems like they're trying to get those numbers up.
Don't fret. You won't miss Blake Hance that much. He went to Tennessee. He's in the division.
Okay, well, good.
So you'll get to see him
he,
twice a year.
He can hang. He can hang up there.
Sure. The new season is right around the corner. Time to get your 2025 season ticket membership right now. Is a good time, a great time. Be at the bank every touchdown and secure your seats at jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. Coaching staff is in. Veterans will be in April. The offseason program, we'll figure out the draft at the end of April, and then early May, usually the schedule will come out. So we know the opponents, home and road. We'll have the full schedule in May as well, but get those tickets right now. It's Huddle Up without Bucky Brooks today. JP Shadrick and John Oehser on this Wednesday in kind of a weird time of the offseason. It's mock draft season. You know that well. We have the tracker.
We have the tracker
on Jaguars.com. Actually, you have the tracker.
Well, it's a... some years the tracker is fascinating. I'll give an insider tip. This year is probably not one of those years because they're sort of I don't know necessarily that the mocks, the consensus of the mocks are accurate because everybody and their brother, it's probably 80-85% Mason Graham, right? That has been, what happens in mocks, and you sort of watch them the same way I do, JP. There gets to be sort of a consensus where, like when I do a mock, you sort of look at somebody else's mock to get a feel for what's going on. You look at 3 or 4 trying to get a feel. And there does seem to be a lot of repetition among even the top mockers. I do that, and it's okay because my mocks are just for fun, right? And they're all for fun. But you even get a lot of monkey see, monkey do with the mocks, especially at the top. Like if somebody if somebody mocks a certain quarterback to a certain team, it becomes sort of part of the group think of people who follow drafts. And then if you draft somebody else, everybody's like, "Oh, you're stupid," So people tend to sort of copy it, but it's really become that way with Mason Graham. I don't think Mason Graham's nearly the lock for the Jaguars that a lot of people think. I think he's a possibility, but I think they could go multiple ways in the first round.
Apparently, Daniel Jeremiah thinks that also.
Oh, good for Daniel Jeremiah.
Daniel Jeremiah's 3.0 mock just came out yesterday.
Okay, 3.0.
NFL media, of course, draft analyst.
I'll be curious. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Well, let's go 1 through 5.
Okay.
I'll read them out to you.
All right.
This has kind of become a general consensus over the last few weeks that the Titans at number 1 are picking quarterback Cam Ward.
Yeah, that
out of Miami.
feels like that.
Right? The Browns at number 2, Abdul Carter.
Okay.
Pass rusher, defensive end, edge. Giants at 3 for Daniel Jeremiah, quarterback Shadrick Sanders.
And that means the rest of his draft will be a little bit different than some people. So
Number 4, the Patriots, wide receiver and corner Travis Hunter.
Okay.
To New England.
Yeah. I don't think Travis Hunter is going to be there when the Jags pick. So
fair.
I think that will get very interesting if he's available when the Jags pick, because as much as they like the idea of line, there's some special about him that's hard to pass up, and that's sort of when I think we'll see their philosophy come in. Mm-hmm. And I talk with different people in the building. Do you just bang on line because that's what some teams just say we're going to take line at all cost.
Figure out the rest.
Yeah, and this team wants to be great on the lines. So that first year, all of a sudden, you have that dilemma that all teams go through. We want to be great on the line, but then there's the shiny object. There's the thing your cat likes to bat around, the little ball.
Yep.
And that's the skill guy because they're very tempting. So you sort of get into a philosophical thing there. Doesn't mean one way is the wrong, but it's interesting. But anyway,
So,
Daniel Jeremiah selects.
With the Jaguars at number 5, he has Jalen Walker, defensive end from Georgia.
Yeah.
Part of his description of this is that Walker could play off-ball linebacker on early downs and then rush off the edge when it's time to hunt the quarterback. But for me, that's what Devin Lloyd was supposed to do. That's what Devin Lloyd did in college.
Well, he did in college, but
He hasn't done it here.
At
They
some
haven't
point-
lined him up there.
yeah, I see your point. I don't necessarily think at this point you draft based on Devin Lloyd. Meaning, if you see a guy who you think can be a rock star, or I don't think you can not take him because Devin Lloyd's on your roster. I hope that he thrives in this. He hasn't shown that he's that level of player yet to knock you off a guy that you think's an all-pro. And that's an interesting look. He's the first guy that I've seen mock him there, but that would not surprise me. I think they go either edge, that sort of player at 5, wide receiver, or defensive tackle. They could go offensive line, but I'm not sure that the right linemen are going to be there at 5 for them to take. But those are the 4 positions that I would expect. And
Just to wrap up the top 10 for Daniel Jeremiah. Raiders at 6, the Boise State running back, Jainty. They got the Jets at 7, Mimbo, the Missouri tackle. Carolina Panthers, Mason Graham, Michigan defensive tackle at 8. Saints at number 9, Jahad Campbell, Alabama linebacker. And the Bears at 10, Will Campbell, the LSU tackle.
Yeah, sometimes with mocks, what people do too is they sort of, you have a tendency to get lazy with it. And you've done your third mock, you've always sort of put Mason Graham there to the Jaguars, and it's hard to get that thinking out of your head. And, of course, the overriding reality of all this is so often all it takes is one team thinking a different way than everybody assumes they're thinking, and then a guy goes in a spot, and then the whole mock's off because most people who analyze drafts, and it's the thing I struggle with answering questions. People will ask all the time, do you think the Jaguars will take a wide receiver at number 5? Which one? I mean,
what style? What do you want?
And that's what it comes down to. When these guys think about it, if they are phrasing things in that way, then they shouldn't be in the job. You cannot phrase number 8, hey, we're going to take a defensive tackle. Okay, well, I mean, if there's a run on it, there's not a guy there, and you take that defensive tackle, then you're negligent to the organization. So that's not the way they think, and it's why you can't draft positionally, you can't draft for needs. It's why this thing becomes so hard to predict.
Attention music fans. That's you, John.
That's me. Well,
The 2025 season at Daly's Place continues in May. Teddy Swims, May 10th, May 31st, T-Pain. And then in June, it is busy as can be. Styx with Kevin Cronin and Don Felder, June 2nd. Old Dominion, June 6th. Vampire Weekend, June 12th. Glass Animals just added, June 17th. And plenty more throughout the summer. It's
I saw Styx in 78, JP.
DailysPlace.com for tickets and show info. Where was this?
I saw Styx at the Jacksonville Memorial Coliseum, the old one, on the Pieces of 8 tour.
All right.
Pieces of 8, the search for the money tree, JP.
Sounds pretty fun,
Well,
actually.
It was a good concert. I forget who opened for him, but it was in what I would consider their prime. Grand Illusion and Pieces of 8.
I would say that would be their prime, yeah.
I was a child of the 70s.
How
JP.
old were you then? by the way?
How old was I?
Not to give up your age.
I would have been. Well, it was actually 1979, so I would have been 12, going on 13.
Okay.
Back when you used to say age like that.
Was that
12,
your first
going on
concert?
13.
What was
No,
your
first real concert was Foreigner with the Cars opening. But the first concert I ever went to was John Denver with my parents.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was a different vibe at Foreigner than it was John Denver.
You
JP.
think?
Yeah.
My first concert was ZZ Top.
Those are both good.
Jackal was the opening band. Yeah.
So
Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center.
Okay, yeah. Well,
It was great. It was in 7th grade.
a civic centers in Birmingham and Jacksonville are the place to see your first concert.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Hey, let's wrap up today with rules change proposals announced earlier today that during the upcoming league meetings, clubs can discuss the following proposed rules changes. All proposals must be approved by 75% of league owners to be adopted. There aren't that many, but there are some big proposals of the 5 that were sent out earlier on Wednesday. Detroit trying to amend Rule 8, Section 4. I know you know the rule book up and down, left
Rule
and
8,
right.
Section 4.
You know exactly what that is. They want to eliminate an automatic first down as a penalty imposed for defensive holding and illegal contact.
I'd be stunned if that gets passed.
It's an offensive league.
It's an offensive league, and then all of a sudden, are you? I see their point, but then all of a sudden you take out if a defender gets beat on a hook and go, then where's the incentive not to just grab at the line of scrimmage? There may often in these rules there's a twist to it that the people who really examine it see that you don't initially see. When I was with the Colts, both Bill Poling and Tony Dungy were on the competition committee, so they talked a lot about that. So I learned quite a bit about how all that works. And there's a lot of thought and a lot of discussion that goes into these rules that's sort of beyond what you sort of see in a piece of paper on this. But on that one, I've got to think that's what the rules committee is going over. If we put this in, they always think, what does it do to take away the spirit of the game right now? And that would be what I guess they're concerned about is if there's not a penalty for holding, then the savvy corner just has his hands all over everybody all the time because all you're giving up is 2 yards.
Better than 40.
Yeah. So I'd be surprised if that passes.
Green Bay trying to amend Rule 12, Section 1. You know that. You
Rule
know
12,
that
Section
well.
1.
They want to prohibit an offensive player from pushing a teammate who is lined up directly behind the snapper and receives the snap immediately at the snap. So basically they want to eliminate the push play.
Yeah, I'd be all for them eliminating it.
Why?
Because to me, there are times with the league where it's supposed to look and feel right. And there's something about the push play that looks like a rugby play and not a football play. Just.
Didn't they ran this play in like 1910 all the time?
Right, 1910. So
leather helmets.
But I think I know where you're going with it, and I think it's why they will not eliminate it, because I think there's another side of it where I think it'd be unfair to the Eagles because they're just better at it than everybody. Yeah. So you're penalized. So I think what the Rules Committee is probably discussing is, okay, we eliminate this because there is some correctness to the people who say that. What the League and Competition Committee likes is if you're sitting in a sports bar and watching it, that it looks like football. And there's something about the push play that people look at and go, that just doesn't feel right. So, but the other side of that is once you eliminate that, then in 5 years when somebody else comes up with something different that's working, the Eagles correctly come back and say, we eliminated the darn push play just because we were good at it.
Yeah. And now you're doing this too?
The Eagles have that play works for the most part, not because the Eagles necessarily great interior line. It works because Jalen Hurts is a freak.
Yeah, and he can squat 600 pounds.
Right.
And you get the power behind him on top of that. It's like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah, so is that fair to Jalen Hurts just because he's stronger than me? Well, not stronger than me, but yeah. So it's a legitimate debate because there's part on both sides, but I would be surprised if they change it.
The key part of that proposal to me is the one at the end that says immediately at the snap. Okay, well,
what's immediate?
what does that mean? How much time is that? Is
right.
do you have to hold it for 2 seconds and then it's legal? Like, I don't know. Like, that would be weird to me.
Yeah, and then you get a situation where do teams have their backs delay 2 seconds and then charge the line, which is even more for injury, right?
That's right.
I forget who I discussed this with. I may have heard the conversation. The argument that people want to make, and that my instinct was to make, is this rule or the play, the way it would get eliminated. It was Judy Batista at the Combine when we talked to her, JP. Mm-hmm. The way it would get eliminated and easy to eliminate is if it was causing injury, because the league always wants to prevent that. But as she pointed out, there's no data to support that. So you would think it would cause injury because of this massive humanity, but it's really not, because it's not a big impact play.
I mean, the one we really remember was the Super Bowl. Chris Jones lined up sideways and then got whacked in the side of the neck.
But like, I think legals would come back and say, well, don't line up sideways. I mean,
exactly.
So they're the argument. And I don't necessarily think it's wrong for Chris Jones and the Chiefs to be saying, well, it's a good argument, but I don't think it goes away.
All right, let's move along. Philadelphia trying to amend Rule 16, Section 1. You know that part of the book well.
Sure, Rule 16, Section 1.
They want to align the postseason and regular season overtime rules. They want to grant both teams an opportunity to possess the ball regardless of the outcome of the first possession, and make it a 15-minute overtime period in the regular season.
I think it'll.
I don't know, man. This is the postseason rule.
Yeah.
I don't mind the one possession thing. Play defense. You can play defense. It's allowed to play. It's hard because some of these rules we just talked about, but you can stop teams and play defense.
And right now in the regular season, if you hold them to a field goal, you get the ball.
That's right.
It's fair to ask a team to hold the team to a field goal. I was always I never even minded the first version of it because you're allowed to play defense. I've come off that a little bit because holding a team to a field goal on the first possession now, or preventing a field goal on the first possession when all a team wants to do is get a field goal in this day and age, is probably slants it too much to the team that receives the ball. But I wouldn't mind seeing this rule pass, but it's important to remember one of the things the competition committee always looks at when they are deciding rules is player safety during the season. And there is always – the reason that the NFL doesn't have the college rule is there's a feeling that potentially, especially the first version of the college rule where it went on forever, adds so many plays in fatigue situations that you increase injury. So the competition committee will always try to err on the side of shorter, which is why I think it may take this rule a year or two to get in. It may take some lobbying to get it in because it lengthens what is now.
Those are the club playing rules proposals. There are also 2 club bylaw proposals. Detroit, active in this period here, wants to amend Article 20, Section 20.2 of the Constitution and bylaws. I know you know those by heart, so you're very familiar with this situation. They want to amend the current playoff seeding format to allow wildcard teams to be seeded higher than division champions if the wildcard team has a better regular season record.
Yeah, this comes up every now and then.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's
why have divisions?
And boy, Detroit's up in everybody's business.
They're trying to be. Win a few games, and all of a sudden,
yeah, well, right. Start flexing. I'm with you. There was a time where I really thought that this was a good idea. And then the more I talk to people, there is a sanctity of the division in the NFL that you want it to matter. Now, maybe it's different than when I was a kid and there were 6 5-team divisions. Now it's 8 4-team divisions. But if you if you get away from having the seeding based on division finish, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4 division winners, and then you start the wild card, then maybe you're basketball. Back when they would just sort of throw the teams into 1 through 8.
Mm-hmm.
And do you really, if you're a casual observer of basketball, do you really know what divisions are out west? So, and I don't follow basketball as much as a lot of people, so maybe people who follow it. But I remember when I was following it, I didn't really quite know out west. It didn't matter because it was seeded 1 through 8. And the seeding gives the division title. It makes sure you have a home game. And I understand that there are some years that feels unfair when the Lions finish 14-3 and the Bucks finish 10-7 and get a playoff. But if this changes, which it could, but I don't think it will, then it's a big moment for me of how the league has always thought about divisions and that tradition and I want to say culture, but you know what I'm looking for, that setup and that thought basis in the league. If this changes, that's a big change from that. And I think it'll be hard to get the league away and get the owners away from de-emphasizing divisions.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Obviously, we're talking about last year Detroit and Minnesota. So Detroit was 15-2, Minnesota was 14-3, and they were the top wild card team. While the Rams at 10-7, Tampa Bay 10-7 had home games as division champions.
Yeah,
I would say this. Okay, if you want to host, don't lose 3 games.
Right.
Like, go be better.
Yeah.
Go win.
Also,
like, it's right there in front of you. That's the carrot.
Home field matters in the playoffs very much. But the idea here is to win the Super Bowl. If you're a big-time team, there's been plenty of teams that have gone on the road to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
It's harder, but you can do it. You're not precluded from winning that game just because it's
60 minutes of football.
Yeah, there were times when I used to follow the NBA that you always felt like, well, the home team's never going to lose, because you always felt like there was something, right? But in the NFL, home field advantage is big, but you also see good teams that go all the way. They often have to go on the road. I remember back in the day when the Broncos were really good, when the Broncos in the 90s. Denver had to go on the road one year, and they went on the road and started their run. It happens all the time. The Giants did it a couple times. Mm-hmm. Last year, the Vikings had that great season and went and lost to the Rams out there. Well, that wasn't a weather game. There was no reason the Vikings couldn't go on one. I'm sure they would tell you. They didn't lose because they were on the road. They lost because they didn't play as well. So I don't think that'll pass, nor do I think it should. I think what will continue to happen is once every 4 years, it'll be a heavy debate in December that people who don't consider divisions as important get very mad at.
And then one more club bylaw proposal, again, by Detroit. The Lions busy. Article 17, Section 17.1 of the Constitution and Bylaws. They want to exclude from the 90-player limit a player placed on reserve injured before or on the day of the roster reduction to 53 players unless such player is designated for return. So this is basically just a roster.
So they're basically trying to sneak a guy through, right?
Yes.
In essence,
yes. Exclude from the 90-player limit a guy that's on the reserve list before or on the reduction date of 53.
So they could bring him back.
Yeah, unless he's designated for return. So basically, they just want to sneak him through.
Yeah. This could pass, and I'd have to really, really, really read the rule to know all the ramifications. But it feels like they're trying to loosen up the ability to hold on to a few more guys and have the injured reserve be a little more flexible. This has been the trend probably since right before COVID of making it's essentially expanding rosters without expanding rosters is what they're doing. What I mean by that is you're giving teams more opportunity to keep guys around and not expose them, which in essence, like it used to be, you could sort of protect 53 guys. Now you can do a few more in injured reserve, bringing them back up. You have a little more ability to pull guys up off the practice squad, which essentially has meant regular season rosters being 56 and 57 that they have access to rather than 53. There's been a trend toward that. What you wonder is, over time, does the NFLPA during a CBA say, hey, we got to, if you're going to keep these guys and have them available to you, do we need to have a 54th guy who's getting paid like that guy? But in recent years, the trend has been to allow more flexibility here. So it wouldn't surprise me if this one got passed. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It gives you more roster continuity at the bottom. So if they do it, it's fine.
We'll see.
But that's the spirit of it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Those are the proposals. And again, they must be approved by 75% of the owners to be adopted. There's the annual meeting at the end of March. There's some other meetings in May, so you never know how these things
Yeah, most of these, they feel like level of rule that they'll either go yay or nay in late March in Palm Beach.
Yeah, knock it out. All right, as we said, somewhat of a quiet week. Spring break season, pro day season is here April 7th. The offseason program phase 1 can begin with the new head coach, so the countdown is on to that. We'll have Jaguars Happy Hour Radio at 4 o'clock Thursday on 1010XL AM. Jeff Lageman and I will bring that to you. And we got it done without Bucky.
Well, it's
tough.
It was tough. I mean, it's I'll probably get a rest later. Nap.
Take a little nap. Thanks, John.
Right.
That's John Oehser. I'm JP Shadrick. Our thanks to Joe Fortunato and Brent Reber. And thanks to you for listening to Huddle Up.